Hello, I'm Ayca and welcome to my Corona Diaries. I'm a presenter on TRT World and currently in shielding due to an illness that I have that puts me in the extreme vulnerable group because of the coronavirus. Now, initially it was aimed at 12 weeks, but by the looks of it, it will go beyond June. I should stop counting, but I am in week 11. Now, I'm still presenting from home and aiming to present weekly to explore the challenges facing all of us throughout this time. Now, this week, we're talking about gender roles during the pandemic. Throughout history, big events such as pandemics and also wars had a big impact on the shift of gender norms. Now today, the research suggests that mums are doing most of the work at home and looking after children. Some even say a resemblance backwards to the 1950s, hence the outfit. So this week, our viewers have shared with us what they're thinking and how it is in their household, not just women, but also men. Now, joining me on the program today, I have two guests, and it's a mother and parenting and relationship blogger, Kat Sims, and dad of two children, managing director for global integrity at Risk Advisors, Mehmet Muderrisoglu. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us on the program today. Now, Kat, starting off with you, but first, let's watch the video from Ayca in Dubai.
Hello, Ayca. We are living in Dubai for the past 10 years, and with the pandemic, with two kids, we are locked inside the apartment for a very long time. Gender roles, I can say, actually it is depending on the situation and the personalities, but at our house it is slightly going backwards, I can say, because my husband is trying to work, which makes him invisible, and two kids actually always looking for the mom. So it is very, very challenging times for all the moms.
Kat, now I believe many women share the same feeling that it's going somehow backwards throughout this pandemic. So like Ayca says, do you think gender role depends on really personality and the situation we're in?
I think it absolutely depends on the situation we're in. And I think that she's not the only one feeling this. I think that's so important to remember. This isn't normal times. This isn't the new normal. This is a temporary situation, and we are all having to do the best that we can. And there does definitely seem to be a trend at the moment that women are bearing the brunt of the housework and the childcare. And I think that's natural in a lot of ways. We're still not breaking those glass ceilings. Women in general, even pre-pandemic, aren't able to earn as much. So generally, they are the ones who are left to look after the kids while the husband continues the job in the more higher paid role. And that's not the pandemic. That's something that we're still fighting day in, day out, pre and post pandemic. It is a shame. And I think there's a lot of women in the same position, but I just want to reassure that I think this is a temporary thing. This isn't the new normal. And I think that once that this pandemic's over, we can all go back to what I hope will actually be a much more flexible world.
Right there, because when we're talking about gender roles, we tend to always talk with female voices, and I think it's important to get a male voice in here. So let's talk to Mehmet. As we said, he's a dad of two. Mehmet, let's watch James's video from Madrid that he shared with us.
I'm James, a British entrepreneur living in Madrid and dad to two children under the age of 3. My wife and I both work full-time, and we've been in lockdown in Spain since the 14th of March. Now, for the first 6 weeks of that, we weren't even able to take the children outside, so we'd be lying if we said that it had been easy trying to juggle our childcare responsibilities with our work commitments. It certainly hasn't. That said, we try to make sure that any sacrifices we have to make are fairly shared between us, and we have a diary that we both keep on the fridge where we put all of our calls for the day, and that way we can make sure that when one of us needs to be connected for work, the other can be free to look after the children. Most mornings you can find one of us still working at 1 a.m. trying to catch up on the stuff that we haven't managed to do during the day, but ultimately we're thankful to be in good health and to have had all this extra time together as a family, and for that we truly are very grateful.
Now, Mehmet, I would say this is quite a good example of sharing the responsibilities throughout these difficult, challenging times. And can you relate to that? How is it in your household? Have you set up a system?
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. Both my wife and I work full time. So there could be difficulties, especially since some colleagues of my wife have been furloughed. Her responsibilities have increased, and so she needs more hours to work, and I have to postpone some of my work until the kids go to bed, basically.
Well, let's bring back Kat in here. So, Kat, the next video is from Okan in Mersin in Turkey.
Hi everybody, Okan is here. I'm speaking after 2 months of quarantine, and it was middle of the March. They said stay at home, it's lockdown, and we said okay, that's fine. We are playing with the kids. It was so enjoyable, and the first 15 days was good because we are spending time with kids. But then we realized it's simple like stocking, and my business was continuing. Thanks to God, my wife is not working currently, so it was chance for us. But from other side, it was big responsibility for her to handle the kids and also me, I can say, in home. And this period, I continued my work half of the day, and the rest of the time I was trying to be helpful. But mainly I was working with the kitchen works, that to bring the supplies, the foods, and making the shopping. And my wife was responsible about taking care of the kids, because from the schools we got lots of activities that kids to complete, and my wife was organizing that, and she was managing the cooking, and I think 2 or 3 times we were so near to divorce, but we survived. It seems we come to a good point, and I'm really happy that we finished this lockdown period. And,
I will stop.
Now, Kat, that is quite honest of Okan and saying that they came close to divorce and very natural there during this pandemic, talking about it. Well, as a relationship blogger, do you think it will have long-time effects on relationships and gender roles?
I think absolutely it's going to have an impact on relationships in both directions. I think we'll find some relationships are really strengthened and healed by the lockdown. I think the reduction of stress, the lifting of the constant schedule management has allowed couples to relax into each other again and to really enjoy each other's time. On the flip side, there's no doubt that this pandemic is going to put a lot of relationships under an enormous amount of stress. And I think his experience is very, very common. The novelty of lockdown at first meant that everybody really enjoyed each other's company again. But now here we are, 2-3 months on, and we don't know what the end looks like. And I think that's really starting to put a lot of pressure on families. Plus, financial problems always have an impact on relationships. And there's no doubt that this pandemic is really, really testing us and our relationships and our family dynamics in many different ways. I think I just would love to say that, again, just like before, whether it's your relationship or your gender roles, this is not a normal time, and we have to accept that this is just a hiatus. So I think if you're a couple and you're struggling, be gentle with yourself, keep each other in mind, and try to keep talking.
Well, that's really good advice there, Kat. Well, let's bring back Mehmet and watch first, though, video from Yasemin, who shared with us from Australia and Melbourne.
I just finished washing the dishes and I'm ready to talk. Hello, Aydogdu from Australia. For all of us here down under, the real nightmare started with the bushfires, then came the pandemic. But still Australia luckier than most other countries, and I was luckier than most Australians who lost their jobs in the millions. During the heydays of the pandemic here, I still could attend my online classes and my daughter could still attend childcare. My husband, as a journalist, was classified as a critical worker and wasn't affected by the curfew. He still went to work. To tell you the truth, within our household, the division of labor didn't change. As usual, I decided what we ate, when we cleaned, and how we lived. On a side note, my dear hubby, you don't need to wait for me to tell you to wipe the floors. Just look if it's necessary. If it's dirty, just wipe it. You don't need to ask me where the mop and bucket are. They are always in the same place.
Well, that's a very good point by Yasemin. Mehmet, so do you know where the mop is? Well, joking aside there, women, and myself included, mainly complain about that we have to organise everything and arrange everything. We have to actually point out for the men to do it. So do you think that this time will bring a change in the attitudes of fathers' roles in terms of family needs, and in the good way or a bad way?
Well, we have to share the burden of domestic work as equally as possible. So I think there will be a massive change of roles. But this process has exposed me to my wife's work, and now I have a better understanding of how hard and demanding. So I guess moving forward, I'll be more careful to respect her time at work. For example, do not expect her to pick up the kids from school by leaving work early or something. But domestically, uh, yes, I mean, both of us had to try to do more, but there wasn't a big to cover on part to begin with. Yes.
Well, that's really good to hear. So let's get Kat back in here. So this is the next one, an Insta actually share. And from Ayca for Buzz, every 2 weeks my husband puts away the dishes and thinks that's the perfect image of a gender role. So Kat, looking at this Insta share, well, in history, gender norms changed during big pandemics and events. And one of the big shifts was, of course, the effect of World War II on this. But today, studies suggest that it is going backwards and throughout the coronavirus. But long term, do you see, though, any positive changes coming out of this?
Absolutely. I think that it's very easy for us to kind of buy into that narrative that men don't really do very much and we all do a lot. And that is, I mean, I know that has come from an element of truth, of course, but I think pre-pandemic, we were seeing more of a move towards sharing of household chores and childcare, certainly. And while the pandemic does seem to have put kind of a bit of a break on that, I do believe that going forward, we're going to emerge into a far more flexible world in terms of whether you have to be in the office to work, whether you can leave early to pick up kids. And I think that will actually support this 50-50 share of both housework and childcare. So yes, I think while the pandemic is definitely having a temporary effect, I do believe that we're going to emerge into a much more flexible, open-minded world where we are able to share those kind of emotional workloads and burdens more easily.
Well, I definitely hope so, and I have to say my husband shares quite a bit with me. He's doing the ironing and the floors and putting the dishes away, so we are juggling both together. I have to mention him in here, of course. Well, Kat Sims and Mehmet Muderrisoglu, thank you very much for joining us on the show this week. Hope you all enjoyed Corona Diaries, and next week we're talking about the effects of COVID-19 times on ethnic minorities. Now, just at a time where people around the world are angry about racial injustice, a report was released in England showing the disproportionate effect the pandemic has had on Blacks, Asians and minority ethnic people. Now, we will look at the impact. So any questions or thoughts, do share with my Insta account, Chacha, and you can watch all our episodes on our YouTube channel, Corona Diaries. Do stay sane and safe.